Welcome to the January 11th Board of Selectmen meeting. If you'd please stand and join us in the pledge of the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a couple minutes before the public hearing. Ratify Laurie Dolney, I'm not sure how to say it, employment as head administrative secretary. Oh, she's not?
No.
I don't know why she was supposed to be here. So I don't know if she's just running late, but Ashley's here.
Okay. Do you want to introduce us, Linda?
So this is Ashley. I was going to say she's going to be the head secretary of inspectional services. She's been working in the public schools for several years as administrative assistant. So I think she'll be a good asset to the town of West Bridgewater.
Good, thank you. Any questions or comments?
No, congratulations.
Thank you so much. Congratulations. Thank you so much. Thanks.
So is there a motion to ratify Ashley's employment?
So moved. Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
There's, due to Bruce Holmquist's passing, there's a vacancy of constable on the annual town election ballot, or there will be if we vote to place it. Is there a motion to place that on the ballot?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There's a few remaining liquor or license renewals, not necessarily just liquor, I think there's some entertainment too.
They all pertain to entertainment.
Okay.
So if you don't mind looking for 2 votes, one vote is going to be for the entertainment licenses. Just if you don't mind just asking to approve as presented on that. And then there's one class 2 that you could approve as presented as well. That is not entertainment, that's just class 2.
All right. Is there a motion to approve those as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Linda, do you want to go back to the...
Yes, thank you. So this is Lori. So Lori is going to be our head administrative secretary, grant writer. So we're happy to have her on board, and she has experience with grant writing, so hopefully she'll be able to pursue all the grants that the town of West Bridgewater is looking to obtain.
Great. Are there any questions or comments for Laura?
No, full-time position. How soon do you start?
So they both start. One starts next Wednesday, and Ashley is starting on Tuesday, because Monday's a holiday.
Great. Congratulations.
Congratulations and write a lot of grants.
All right. Is there a motion to ratify Laura's employment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Congratulations. One more minute. Approve the meeting minutes of November 2nd.
So I would like to make a motion to approve those minutes with an edit, just that on page 2, 5th paragraph down, when I seconded the part-time local inspector, I also disclosed that he's a relative and that there's no financial interest or personal interest in him being hired. And then I seconded the motion, so that we just need that edit added. But I would make the motion to approve the minutes with the edit.
We'll add the amendment. Yep, we'll do that.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. In moving back to the vote by mail for local elections, David, is this actually a public hearing? I have to open the public hearing?
It's
and
a
ask
public hearing, which
Okay.
means it doesn't require a posting. You do have to
okay.
open it, you do have to close it, and you are required to elicit any feedback from the audience if they so
Yep.
choose.
Okay. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak in regards to local election mail-in voting? Hearing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Did you want to go over this? Is that why you're here?
If you guys want to go, I think I kind of should go over it just for anybody that might be watching.
Sure.
So basically, the legislation approved the Voters Act, which was approved June of 2022. One of the things that it brought was permanent vote by mail for state and federal election, and an opt-out vote by mail for local elections. So if we don't vote to opt out of it, you have to have it, and it's something we have to vote before every local, so every year we have to vote for it. So I'm recommending that we vote out of it, just because of the small amount of people that we have that vote. And if anyone can't make it, they can always do absentee. That's still available for them. So what I'm looking from you guys is a vote to opt out of the vote by mail.
Great, thank you. I agree with that.
Yeah, there's additional costs with running this that wouldn't be reimbursed.
Exactly.
right?
So what happens is, because the vote by mail for state and federal elections is mandatory and it's an unfunded mandate, we do get reimbursement from that from the state. But if we because they put the choose to opt out, if we don't opt out, then they're not going to cover it, because we had an option to opt out on it. The last time we had it was in 2020, when we were in shutdown, which made sense. So it does cost. It costs for the postage, it costs for the extra ballots that I need to get for the mail-in, and it costs for any employees that I have to hire to process them when they come in and out.
So I would make a motion to opt out.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Just, again, please, you have to include the date of,
Yeah, you have to.
Oh, sorry,
the
and roll
motion
call.
There's a motion that I gave you that includes.
Okay, I make a motion to opt out of vote by mail for the town of West Bridgewater's local election scheduled for April 8th, 2023.
Is there a second?
Second.
And roll call vote?
Anderson, yes?
Raise yes.
Kinahan, yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Back to the meeting minutes of November 15th, except for review.
Did you want?
Yeah.
I just, an FYI, I just wanted to tell people out there that nomination papers are available. They'll be available through February 17th. On the ballot this year is 1 selectman, 1 assessor, 2 library trustees, 1 school committee, 1 water commissioner, 1 constable, 1 board of health, 1 planning board, and 1 housing authority. And if anybody's interested or have any questions, they can contact my office.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Except for review the meeting minutes of November 15th.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Maureen Adams is requesting to roll over 5 days, which is allowed per the CBA. Is there a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public comment period. Does anyone have anything? All right. Town administrator's report.
Sure, so just a whole bunch of FYIs to the board. One is that OCPC asked me for an endorsement letter for a regional water study. They have filed this with the federal government, looking for a regional grant of some kind. I really don't know exactly where it's going to go, but whenever we can do a regional partnership and secure federal funds for better water supply, we should throw our hat in and see what occurs. So I wrote a support letter. I spoke to OCPC about it. I provided a letter in the packet for your review. Secondly, our insurance company just did a law enforcement liability risk assessment. I want to give a lot of credit to both the police chief and to our police lieutenant. Many police departments do not pass at the level that we did. In essence, especially since 2020, is that more insurance companies are getting involved to make sure that police departments have policies in place and that they're also practicing those policies. Specifically, it also has to do with excessive force, items related to that, and also in reference to whether or not if you have a routine stop, whether you engage in following that person as well, and not having high-speed chases through your town. So we have about 200 policies. As you'll recall, is that the police chief showed great leadership on this a handful of years ago and had the town get certified to the state of Massachusetts. And as a result of that process, we put this policy and manual booklet in place. And again, I also want to say thank you to the police union because throughout the entire process, they've always been extremely amenable and supportive as well. So, I want to give credit to the police department for that. But our townspeople should know that we have excellent policies in place and that they are being adhered to. Next is that, as you know, with our electricity, is that if you could blow that up just a little bit, thank you. Our current rate through Constellation, which was a 5-year contract, This is for electricity for all municipal buildings. We use a little over 2 million kilowatts per year. Our current delivery rate was 969 or 9.69 cents per kilowatt. And that gives us a total annual price of about $209,000 is what we spent. I went out to bid with Constellation, and I reviewed these numbers with you at a previous meeting. This was the lowest pricing over a 60-day period, happened to be on November 10th. So you could see what their pricing was if we went through a 1-year term or all the way out to a 7-year term. And on the far right-hand side, you would see how much more we would have spent if we had signed with Constellation. After some and then if we go with National Grid's winter rate now is at $33.89. It's exactly why I continue to tell people to opt in to our aggregation, and you would see that our annual expense would increase by $522,000. After some arm twisting, we were able to jump onto the town's electric aggregation. So although there is an increase of $35,000 for the year, you can certainly see that it was a substantial savings versus everything else. So we did jump onto it. I'll be our next meter reading will be next month. It does mean, for FY23, FY24, you are going to see some increases in our utility costs. Because that $35,000 has to be spread out amongst all of the departments. But again, a far cry from $500,000. So, and that does not preclude us at a later date from re-entering into another agreement if we see that the rates start to come down. Excuse me. Next one is the economic development bill. So I want to give credit to Senator Timilty on this. His office reached out to me. He placed a bill and an earmark into a supplemental budget, and he put in $1 million for all of his towns, and it was approved. So that's really obviously very good news. We have not received feedback or anything yet from the Administration of Finance from the state as to exactly how we can use these funds, when I can use the funds, and what actually falls under the term of economic development. If the board is okay with this, my argument is going to be that you have no economic development without clean water, and so I'm hoping that we can maybe use this $1 million towards whatever we do for a future water treatment plant. Again, that's going to be an interpretation of Administration and Finance. It will also be as to how long or when the money can be spent. Best case scenario, we're going to build a water treatment plant in 3 or 4 years. This may have to be spent in the next 12 months. We don't have clarification yet. So once I do know, I'll certainly follow back up. But I wanted to give credit to Senator Timilty for placing that into the supplemental budget and being able to get it passed on behalf of the town.
David, is that $1 million per town that's referenced? Because it says an equal amount, so
Yep. It's $1 million per town.
per town.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it's an excellent job. So, again, I want to make sure he receives the credit for that. Next is on December 21st, our superintendent of schools, along with some other staff members from the school, participated in MSBA Zoom meeting. As you know, we had a statement of interest that the town approved, or the Board of Selectmen approved about 6 months ago. They reviewed it at that meeting, and they have accepted the town of West Bridgewater to move on to the next step. That does not mean that we were approved to build a school at this point. The next step is to actually enter into what they refer to as a feasibility stage. We have 9 months on which we're going to have to go to town meeting. There'll be some other work we have to do, but we'll go to town meeting and have to secure funding for our feasibility study, i.e. have an engineer look at it and determine as to what next best steps is and what a realistic price is going to be on that new school. As you know, there's going to have to be some ample conversation about this as well, because the statement of interest was specific to the Rose McDonald School and to the Spring Street School individually, and the big selling point to the MSBA was the consolidation of schools. And we also know that there's been discussion about consolidation of all 3 schools. So I think all the key stakeholders over the next 9 months will have to engage in that process. Then we'll have to go to town meeting, get funding, assuming it passes, and then determine as to what the town's going to be looking for. We have until 2025 to come up with the findings, and then we would reapply to MSBA at that point for funding to actually build the school.
So the rumor mill's running wild with, we're gonna have 3 schools, we're gonna have 2 schools, this school's being torn down, there's no leaning one way or the other right now. It's all being explored, correct?
So there is nothing official, like from an MSBA standpoint, nothing officially been approved. Obviously, the school committee and the administration over there probably is leaning in one direction or another, and so I don't know what that is.
Okay.
But I'm sure they have real thoughts about it.
Okay.
But I do know at this point that at a bare minimum, they will be looking to consolidate the Rose McDonald and the Spring Street School. Whether or not that also gets consolidated with the Howard School, I think is going to require a lot more conversation.
Okay.
None of that, though, has been solidified with MSBA. They have just opened the door to say, start the process so you can, as a town, start to engage and figure out what your next step is.
Okay.
And the last is, some other good news. The West Bridgewater Housing Authority, through the state of Massachusetts, had received a special permit grant, a grant, and have filed for a special permit in order to be able to add 2 of our units into accessible units. So right now we have 38 units for senior housing. None of them qualify for ADA or accessible units. The state will now pay to add or create 2 of them. So they will retrofit the doors, retrofit ramps, retrofit sidewalks, so that way wheelchairs can now go onto them as well, and they will also increase parking. Fully funded by the state. The only decision we made on the local level is that there's a filing fee, and we're not going to charge the housing authority a filing fee. So we're going to waive that fee, but all other fees will be picked up and paid for by the developer and the state.
All right.
And that's the report.
Thank you, David. You're welcome to adjourn.
So moved.
So I do have something for public comment period. I neglected
missed
to
it.
say. I know, but
Go for it.
okay. I think the one thing we didn't mention is that the ADA committee was awarded a $50,000 grant. Can you speak to that just a little bit? Because I don't think they've received a grant in years,
So,
if at all.
So I didn't place it on the agenda yet because I signed it and I have some follow-up emails from the state and I want to better understand it. But my understanding at this point is we received a $50,000 grant to write a transitional assistance document. In essence, what we have to do is that we have to provide to the state ADA commission what we are going to do to comply with ADA requirements moving forward. For example, this building is specifically exempt from ADA requirements because it predates the ADA legislation that was passed in 1992. Anything post that, you must comply with ADA requirements. But most municipalities, I mean, obviously we want to make sure that we're accessible for the people that are most vulnerable. So we don't have literally the millions of dollars in order to go through every single trail, every single building, every single door, and be able to upgrade that. So we must have to identify where our weaknesses are, and then what our plan would be going forward in order to address them. And that requires doing a full comprehensive inventory of everything in town. That's going to require a professional engineering firm or a professional consulting firm that specializes in that. So then they will write a transitional booklet to get us from here to there. And then once that booklet is done, and we have identified exactly what we want to do, we can then apply for an additional ADA grant at that point called an action grant. And if funded, then they would provide funds to say, okay, you want to add wheelchair accessibility to X. And then they would hopefully pay for that as part of that. In order to get it, we have to get the transitional program done first. That's what this grant is funding. Did I get that right, Ms. Coordinator?
That was everything.
Well, thank
On
you.
point.
I think, I think in the past, we sent the fire department, I think, an appreciation letter for their efforts in obtaining a grant. I'd like to make a recommendation that we send the ADA committee a letter of, recognition for acquiring this grant.
Sounds good.
Sure. Okay.
All right.
I already seconded your motion. Or no, she has to second your
Yes.
motion.
So now, I'll second the motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.